So Valiant Comics is a institution that was created in the 70s or 80s with, I think, Jim Shooter. I'm gonna make absolutely sure I
Just
got this right. Yep.
no fanfare at
Yep.
this point in time, Kyle.
Yeah. No. Valiant Comics
And I'm
is
Cody.
yeah. Yep. Hi. Welcome to Kyle and Cody's Called Cinemacast. I'm Kyle. This is Cody. Cody wanted to know what Valiant Comics was, so I'm gonna give the whole uh shout out right here. Founded in 1989 by former Marvel Comics editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. He was a big deal at Marvel throughout the, I think, late 70s and 80s. They came to fame for having pretty decent quality stories and artwork, and also just having some A-grade material out in the time. It didn't end up lasting because there was some stuff that the company, as the other guys in the company, essentially went against Jim Shooter and like booted him out eventually. They essentially did they're one of the few companies that have taken a good crack at like imitating the Marvel and DC formula, that have one of the most successful in that regard. I think the other valiant attempt, it was a valiant attempt. I think like Image didn't know, like did a attempt, but it wasn't very good. Valiant's considered to be a pretty good considered to be a pretty good institution at the time. What they would do is they'd start with like a series, and then like you introduce some character in that series, and they'd spin off into another their own solo series, and they do that over and over again until they had like a decent little lineup. They went out of business in the mid 90s.
But isn't that any comic book? Like,
No,
notoriously, like The Amazing Spider-Man, I think Thor also, a lot of characters are created within other storylines. I think I want to say the Hulk was created because they were late on a comic book series, and they just were like, we need to pump something out this week. Let's create like
maybe.
just this angry green blob, and that eventually became the Hulk. But I'm not 100% on.
Like what I'm getting at is literally like I don't recall the exact order of all this, but essentially like you might have Bloodshot's comic, and in Bloodshot's comic that introduce bloody hell, what's one of the Valiant heroes? Rao, I think, is one of them, and that seems like something that I think Rao might have actually spun out of Bloodshot. Rao looks like Bloodshot with a sword. But yeah, essentially like Rao would be introduced in the pages of Bloodshot once he got popular, and then Rao would get his own solo series. And that was just how they always introduced their characters for I think a dozen of them or something.
That's kind of really interesting when you think of like comic books as a whole, and where they're kind of going and where they've kind of been. It's kind of hard to come up with something that hasn't already been pretty well defined within the medium.
I think one of their biggest guys.
Like for example, like
Go ahead.
this is like you've got like a soldier in this movie. If we didn't fully state this already, we're doing Bloodshot this week. We've got this character who's basically just a super soldier, and like that archetype has already been well defined previously by like Captain America is where I was going with this, or something. What I'm saying is it's really hard to find like a kind of an original idea to do within comic books, and that kind of
Yeah, he's more in the
it,
vein of like,
it's basically diminishing returns at this point.
I'd say he's more in the like vein of like the Punisher and like Deadpool more than anything. But I see your point there. And like this would have been maybe a
Mhm.
bit more fresh in when he was released, but I think even then you had like, this is early 90s when this guy would have gotten released. He would have been this would have been released into like a sea of these types of characters that were coming out at that time. Not all of them would survive the decade unless you're like a big you were like reading comics back in the day or read a bunch of encyclopedias
I'm
or
not. I'm
whatnot.
not
Yeah.
holding this up against
No, yeah, no.
a Valiant Comics or anything. I'm just stating that it's probably a problem within the industry at least. And I mean, some of the best characters I think notoriously have come from like two comic books trying to push each other to make better characters, and that generally helps the industry because of the competition in the medium they are in currently. So
One of Valiant's big ones was Exo Man of War, which was basically like, what if a Roman centurion got sent to the far future and got like an Iron Man armor? It's supposed to be pretty good.
but that's the same thing. Like they're like, well, let's take this thing and then put it into the future, and then that's our comic. And I mean, it definitely works. It's definitely a good idea. But I mean, I think even earlier before that, I think that's already been established as a thing earlier by like what would happen if we took like a caveman and uh unthawed it in modern days. How would it well, even fucking Captain America is basically
Yeah,
just like, hey, what would happen if we took the soldier from the 40s, unthawed him, and now he's fighting crime in modern days. So
yeah, we're doing the 2020 movie Bloodshot. It's I think it seems to be based more off like the more recent runs that started in 2012, and using that sort of basis for that story. I think that's where a lot of the plot elements from this come from. I think even in the original, he was even a mafia guy at one point, and he's gone through 2 or 3 reboots at this point. And like, first of all, the company was like went out of business at one point and was revived in the 21st century by different people. So that's just like a consequence of that, more than like almost more than the company being like volatile within like its creative direction.
mhm.
But yeah, this movie kind of had like a bit of a box office flop. Though really, here's the thing: it was released in March of 2020, like right when the pandemic hit. Like back in that first month of the whole thing when everything was crazy, and no one was sure about how anything worked, and all the theaters were closed. So this
Mhm.
got released onto like premium streaming like 2 weeks after it released, after or like 2 weeks after it had been in theaters, because it wasn't because no one could go to theaters in most places. I think there might have been some places where people saw it, but yeah, I ended up getting this on Blu-ray for my birthday present in June, and I watched it on my birthday, and I was very pleased with it. And that's kind of why we're here. I just thought it never got like a lot of coverage because of the pandemic, and I think it deserves some. It's like no one talks about it, but I think it's
I
really
think
good.
it boils down to how a company releases a film when it's not expected to make their money back. Once again, it was a very volatile market
Yeah,
during the pandemic, and it's definitely not going to make its money back off in box office. But I think when Netflix does their like their original content, they don't try and make all their money back all at once. I think they try and make their money back over 4 years in 4 years time.
this did make $37.3 million off a $45 million budget, so they did make a little, so they still would have needed to make about 90 million in order to succeed. So that's like a issue, but I don't think this had like some chance to like make some money, but I think this would have killed a lot of chances of like them using the money from this to like launch into a franchise, which is probably what they wanted to do, which sucks because I really thought the quality of this was good, and I would have liked to see this team maybe move forward. But I don't know. I also like it as a standalone though. Like I'm fine if this is just the only movie of this. I think this is just really
Well,
good
in my
as a
opinion,
standalone.
I don't see where this goes forward, though.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, no, yeah.
Like it's a pretty well self-sustained story in itself, but like I think the creators kind of wrote themselves into a box by the end of it. Like there's no way to go up from what they've already completed.
Yeah, it was supposed to get like a sequel, and then and then eventually go into something called Harbinger, which is this Valiant comic series, but I'm not sure about all that. There's just not a lot. They'd maybe like to move forward, but it doesn't seem like there's any word since like late 2020. It might happen yet. Vin Diesel says he's on board with it, but we'll have to see. I think it's too early to say, and they need to get some money. I think they would need to get like some more capital together to like move forward. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, this is it released into a shitty market, and there's nothing you can do about it. I do yeah. What else do we talk about? Vin Diesel's the star of the movie, directed by David S.W. Wilson. That does not have a. What did he all do? Yeah, he's mostly a visual effects director, actually. He's done some. Oh, I think this is the guy that did like the cutscenes or some of the those cutscenes for the Star Wars, The New Republic. You know those big lightsaber
So
fights.
this is his first directorial debut by looks of things. He's done visual effects in 3 other movies, and this is the only one he's directed.
Yeah, this is the only film he's done. He's done a couple episodes of TV, but he's mostly a visual effects guy.
Mhm. Most
Yeah,
notably, he was the visual effects person for Avengers: Age of Ultron. So,
yeah,
I mean, you can kind of see where he's coming from with a lot of his movies in this, I guess.
yeah. I find
I
the
don't know if
effects
he's
are
done
okay in
anything
this
recently, but
for what that's worth.
like a lot of the particle effects are kind of really cool. And a lot of the scenes, a couple of the scenes were really well done. So it's yeah, 3 credits under. He did one Saturday Night Live. Oh wow, he directed Sunny's Edge from Love, Death and Robots. Um,
Yeah, I've never seen the show.
oh, if you haven't seen Love, Death and Robots, definitely go check it out. It's an anthology series, and every episode is super different from each other. It's really good, actually.
Guy Pearce plays the villain. He does. I think everyone does like an okay job in this. I think they all like. I think it's a. I think it's surprisingly like layered film, but we'll get into that. I think that's just we go into the plot. I don't think there's anything too much. I don't think there's anything we get out without like getting into like plot detail stuff. And there's stuff to get through. I'm gonna enjoy this. This is fun. So yeah, we open our film with a Vin Diesel's character with a military strike team, and they're going to do a raid on a place in Mombasa. Sorry, and they do this. They do one of those where he has to get like a hostage out of a place. We get in one of those really always badly done scenes where they do like a you drop the gun or I'll shoot this person, and I'm always kind of disappointed with the results in these. It's scarcely been done where I find this to be a plausible like outcome. In this one, Vin Diesel eventually is just like, "Hey, look over there," and he looks over there and he shoots the bad guy, saving the hostage. He does get shot in the process though, which is a little better. I just find these scenes to be ludicrous all the time. Like I think though I'm forgiving of this one for a couple of reasons. Mostly because Vin Diesel does get shot in it, showing that it was a bad idea. Also, what was I going to say? Like we'll get into some stuff later that makes it a little better, but it's he does at least wait for the guy to put the gun away from the person before he shoots, which is probably the thing to
Hmm.
do.
But like, I think I've seen a lot of these pieces end very badly because I don't think a lot of people realize like muscle reflex is definitely a thing. Like even if you do successfully make the shot, like a lot of the times there's a good possibility that somebody pulls the trigger just out of natural body reflex. Like the fact that he moved the gun out of the way is really cool.
I kind of lump this in with like the scene, like the sort of scenes where like a guy doesn't have a gun, but a guy's got a gun pulled on him, and he has to like get his gun out in order to get prevent himself from being shot. And like it's always, I find those really implausible too. But
Hmm.
that's yeah, it's just a weird. But yeah, these are just scenes I don't typically like, and I'd warn anyone against putting them in their movie unless they're trying to subvert it somehow. Um,
What which is kind of also stupid because, like, if like the main villain was actually paying attention to the scene at all earlier, like you could watch Vin Diesel literally look across the room at the phone. He knows where the phone is. He's just fucking with this guy at that point in time, and like just call his bluff. I guess. Like, why?
yeah,
Why would you?
yeah, it's but yeah,
You
that's
just
the
double
thing.
down. I
Yeah,
guess is
no,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah, it's always weird when they do these. But yeah, rescues the hostage, and they head back to, I guess, a military base in Italy, where they, or like an American military base in Italy, or maybe the Americans just needed to like bunk there while they went to this Mombasa. Where's Mombasa? Oh yeah, no, that's way off. Never mind. Mombasa's off like the Indian Ocean. I was like, huh, is that in like northern Africa? And it's like, nope, nope, India, or like something like that, Asia. I could have been more wrong about that. Yeah, no obvious reason why they're in Italy. But yeah, Vin is having a vacation with his girlfriend in Italy, or his wife in Italy. Sorry. Vin Diesel is playing a guy named Ray Harrison in this. In the comics, I think they've switched around with like him having another name, but I think the most recent incarnations either favor Ray Garrison or do something else, which I won't reveal for spoiler reasons just yet. But yeah, no, they're doing a whole thing. Ray's wife is trying to convince him to quit, like leave the army or retire or whatever, because he like, we can see like Ray shirtless, and he's got a bunch of scars and whatnot. Also, he's taken a bullet from the last mission, but he dismisses this because he says he'll always come home.
I don't know if he like yeah, he was definitely shot, but I don't think it like I think it was a graze to like his rather his abdomen or like his lower hip. I don't think that like anything was very life threatening at that point in time. But I could be wrong.
He's also probably got Kevlar on. Like
Hmm.
maybe it's just, yeah, it's a big hit, but like, yeah, he's got Kevlar. He might have been okay. Gina's the wife's name. I don't know why. By the way, did you notice her English accent in the earlier part of the movie?
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah,
I think I didn't.
yeah. I'm missing it. I'm
And
not
then
sure if I recall it
later on,
either. Yeah, because when he meets her later, she has
uh,
an English accent because she's, I guess, from England or the UK, whatever.
huh.
Yeah, I can't remember if she has an English accent in this part of the movie. Maybe that's a hint? Question mark, question mark, question mark? Or that's an
Yeah, I've
interesting
got
little note?
nothing.
That could be intentional, possibly, but we'll move on.
I would hope so. I would hope that it wasn't like this giant fuck up of the, which is actually really cool because it brings me to another point later on in the movie.
Yeah,
So
no, there's gonna be there's a spoiler. Like, I want to get to it when we get to it in the plot, but there's a point in this movie, and if you want to, like, I'd encourage you to like turn this off and like watch the movie for yourself, and like come back and like watch it for the rest of us. I'll give you a brief like
I
5 second
don't know.
pause to go do that, and like where you can cut off 1, 2,
I don't think
3,
that- I don't.
4, 5. Oh, that was a good movie, right? Yeah, back to the story. Anyway,
I was gonna say I don't think we've ever told people to pause our podcast to go watch the movie before in the whole history of our 3 seasons. I guess like
I like people to watch. Like I would always encourage people to watch the movies before they listen to us. This is always also like big spoiler stuff all the time. We are a spoiler cast.
I mean, arguably, I think there was a couple of couple of movies I've never even watched that I've come onto the podcast to talk about. So, I mean, it generally helps. It's definitely not necessary.
But yeah, it is a nice. I think it is a nice, satisfying twist that happens. So if you want, last chance. But actually, there's a couple minutes left before we get to it, probably. But I do that if you really want to. I promise it's worth it. Anyway, after this conversation and and Ray assuring Gina that he doesn't need to retire because he'll always come home. Which bold playing for a soldier at the best of times. Then as they're doing this, some assassins come in and inject him with like sedative, with a sedative of some sort.
Mhm.
So yeah, he gets in a fight with them for a little bit, but he eventually does just get he gets needled with sedative after a while. They bring him to a random seedy location inside of a meat locker, which is odd, and he's getting interrogated to this guy who is in like shorts and wearing a bathrobe and does like a dance to the song Psycho Killer by, I should have looked this up, I was going to, I'm pretty sure it's a Canadian song, so it's kind of important to do because we gotta shout out all the Canadian guys. Psycho Killer by Talking Heads. Are they a Canadian band?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Is one of the guys Canadian?
An
Maybe
American rock band formed in 1975.
one of the guys is Canadian. I don't know. I'm just saying that because it's on the radio quite a bit. And but yeah, he's doing a dance to the
One
song.
Scottishman, one American, and another American.
I know, Canada has rules about like playing a certain amount of Canadian music on the radio. It was just I'm not, which isn't a bad thing. This is a good song, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, he's doing the dance, and he's just like, yeah, I want to know. I love that song. I want to know how you knew about the hostages in Mombasa or whatever, Mombasa. And he's just like, I don't know. I'm a soldier. They just some guy in like the intelligence corps found out, and then they told me to go get him. He doesn't like that answer, so he threatens to kill Gina with a I don't know the proper word for it because I'm not a butcher. Like I mean like butcher as in meat, like the occupation. They have these things that are like it's a compressed air tool that like shoots out a spike that you put onto like a part of the animal where it is lethal in order to put down the animal so that you
It's
can
called a
butcher it.
bolt gun, and I know this because actually I used to work in a slaughterhouse.
Oof.
Ironically enough, which I don't think they utilize. They might have utilized one of these, and I think it's about the equivalent of a 22.
Yeah.
Um,
I think they make them
but
bigger though.
it's
But
meant for
yeah,
close range, right?
yeah. This one also is like a small one. I think they make them bigger, which they'll need to for
Mhm.
like larger like bovine cattle. Like you cannot
Cattle.
you. I'm not going to get into this. This is a dark subject matter, and I need to put a content warning up. But anyway, it's a this is dark enough as it is. It's a device used for killing cattle. He makes some joke about seeing if she'll be able to take 6 inches, which is gross. Which is a yeah. We'll get to this later because this comes up again later. Weirdly enough, and yeah, he's
I think this whole scene in itself was an interesting talking piece because like you watch these guys come in and do this whole fucking psycho killer dance in the original one, in the original scene, and then you figure out more about the whole entire scene later on in the movie, and it kind of becomes way more interesting than what it was originally because like at first I was like, oh, a villain dancing to a fucking classic 80s like rock song like as an introduction, it's kind of I wouldn't say overdone or overplayed, but like you see it every once in a while and it gets kind of weird after that. And
Yeah.
like they definitely play on that idea. So
Yeah, like
props to them.
yeah, like and like the audience, like the guys listening to this at home, oh, we need to get through this so we can get to the part where we can talk about all this again because shit changes. But yeah,
And I mean, this guy's got moves. I'll give him that much.
yeah,
Like is pretty well choreographed. Is all I'm saying.
yeah, yeah. So that results in her death, and yeah, he eventually kills her, and Ray's just like, "I will find you and I will kill you, and if like you should just kill me now because this isn't possibly like otherwise I will come find you." And he's just like, thanks for the advice," and then shoots Ray Garrison in the face.
It's also another one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna leave the main protagonist alive to like eventually seek revenge on him, and then instead the villain's just like, maybe let's not potentially leave like loose ends just like lying around. Like he actually takes the advice of the protagonist and actually straight up just murders him, which is like I'm really glad to see that there's been like a progression of fucking like super villain tropes over the last like I don't know 50 or 60 years where they're like let's take to that and let's add like layers to it where it's not just like
Because every time they've done this in the past, they've had everyone in the audience is just like what, you just shot him in the chest and left him for dead and didn't even make sure he was dead? No criminal would ever do this. It's been pointed out
uh-huh.
thoroughly that like no hitmen put one in the guy's head and like
Yeah.
make sure everything happens. They're either like doing it as like a drive by or they're putting one in the back of your head, not one of the two. They're going for one of two angles,
Mhm.
hitmen. So yeah. So yeah, he's
But I
actually
mean,
doing
I
some
guess like
crazy
later
work.
on this comes up later again.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, we get a our next scene is actually him getting brought back to life, kind of like Commander Shepard style from like Mass Effect 2. Yeah, so they're bringing him back to life by like or some guys are bringing him back to life using like nanobots to like or nanites they call them to like replace his blood. They essentially just like go in and like replace the parts of his body that get blown apart. In the comics, this process turns his skin white and gives him like a big red dot in the middle of his chest, but in this he walks around as like a normal guy most of the time.
well, here's my thing to
Yeah,
that.
I'm not
Vin
complaining, by the way.
Diesel, white as fuck. Like super white.
I mean, his skin is he does we don't he might have some like Latin blood in him apparently,
And
but
I think they definitely tried to like whiten him up a little bit later in the series.
yeah,
Or in the
movie.
movie. I think by the end of it, he's definitely
And I'm pretty
um
sure like
you see some of it.
I'm pretty sure like the in the comics the guy's Italian in certain continuities too, so it's well, they're Italian guys that are
Hmm.
sort of dark, but whatever. Not the point. But yeah, it's not a but yeah, they like his skin gets like painted like the color white, not like skin white in the comics. But in this I think he mostly walks around. Yeah, in this he mostly walks around as just a guy and like occasionally like takes on like a dirty white hue that's like white with tints of gray, which is really cool
Hmm.
looking when it happens twice in the movie. So yeah, he gets like brought up to speed by the characters in the movie, which are in Rising Spirits Technologies or product. What's the?
Technologies.
Is it Technologies?
I'm pretty sure it's technologies.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Technology. I have it written down somewhere. Yeah, or yeah, maybe I can't. It's not in my bar. I think it's I have it written down like a third page of my notes or something. Rising Spirit Technologies.
Yeah, it's technologies.
Yeah, they're essentially like a company that specializes in making like high end prosthetics for I assume everybody, but they're like principally what they're doing experiments on is like former military officers. They got KT, who's KT played by Isa Gonzalez. She's got like a respiratory issue, and it's like she breathes through a tracheal thing tube that's like set up on her chest or like on her clavicle. She still talks normally, but she properly breathes through her like this hole in her chest or like robot vent little thing. Who are the other guys? I'm fucking blanking.
Okay, so they're both two unknown actors, according to Wikipedia. There was Tibbs and
They say his name. Hold on. Dalton is
Alexander
one guy.
Hernandez, and then there. Oh no, Sam
Yep. Sam
Heughan as
Hugan plays
Dalton.
Dalton, who's got like missing leg, who's like a missing his legs and has like really high end leg prosthetics.
Mhm.
And then who is the other guy?
The guy without eyes.
Then there's the other guy, Tibbs, who is blind and has like cameras mounted all along his body so he can see. So those are like the main guys in this. Also, it's run by why don't I keep closing things so I can't reference them? I said his name to Guy Pearce is Dr. Emil Harting, who is the guy in charge of this whole operation. He is a guy that lost his arm to cancer and then replaced it with like a super arm.
Mm-hmm.
And they hit like him, Dr. Harding and KT explained to Ray that he has been brought back to life through like an experiment because the military sent his remains to them in order to experiment on him because nobody claimed his body. Ray does not have any memories at this point. We saw what happened earlier, but which is maybe a bit of a mistake. Maybe we should have like had that scene put like after this one. I think that's maybe the traditional way to do this, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he has no memories right now. But yeah, so they're getting brought up at this whole thing. He apparently no one claimed his body, and they don't know who they are because all his military stuff is classified. So that's a thing. So they're going to like keep him around to like jog his memory and like monitor his recovery, I guess, from being dead. This is apparently a big $1 billion project. They explained that as the that the nanites in his bloodstream will like replace the broken parts of his body, which causes some heat to activate, which will be stored up in his chest in the form of like a glowing red dot, which they demonstrate through a mouse that expires from like overheating, like a test mouse. But yeah, that's the thing that we're worrying about. And that they also bring up that they need to like refill his batteries or like expel his excess energy after a while. He goes to bed that night and has a nightmare. So he goes up to the gym where he goes to blow off some steam, and he lifts some weights and finds out he has super strength, and then proceeds to beat the shit out of a concrete support pillar. Granted, this is a big building. I don't know that blowing out this one pillar would like collapse the entire building, but it's not a good thing to do.
Yeah, I guess like Vin Diesel really just does not seem to. I think any superhero just doesn't really care for fucking property damage at all. So
It's not the best thing to do. Anyway, after this, he wanders to like the pool where KT is doing some underwater exercises with her vent thing closed, which would be, I think, a bad thing to do because that's a spooky thing to do, like being totally like cutting your breath, like physically sealing off your ability to breathe underwater. That would probably freak me out. Then I guess on the other hand, you do that when you go underwater anyway. But yeah, so we get a thing where like they're doing some chemistry stuff because leading lady, leading man, whatever. So they go to like do some drinking. She gives him a Navy medallion that she got from that she tells him she got from a her superior officer on her ship, because when she joined up in the Navy, she was the first woman to be on their vessel, and the commanding officer wanted to like do a gesture of goodwill to like say to like welcome her to the team, which would be a really cool thing, which is a really decent thing to do probably. I don't know if can women be in the U.S. Navy currently? That's a question right now. I think they can, but I think they were one of the maybe the holdouts actually with like sex integration. But yeah, that's a thing. So yeah, they're doing some drinking, and as they're doing this, the radio starts playing Psycho Killer, which jogs Ray's memory and gets him and like jogs his memory of the whole thing, and he remembers everything, and he goes down to the parking garage and steals someone's vintage Ford. Um, just as really like a really well kept up. I suppose it might not be vintage by like old people standards, but it's vintage to modern standards. It's probably from the 80s or whatever. And he drives off with it because he's going to seek revenge. Harding tries to talk him into coming back, but he's just like, "No, I'm going to go do this." And he and Ray figures out that he can like communicate with his server with like a the server that they're using to communicate with Ray, because he doesn't have like a headphones or anything. They're just communicating with the nanites in his body. So they connect, and he looks up some information and finds out where the guy who killed his wife is. A guy named who was introduced earlier as Martin Axe, and he goes steals a Jetstream plane, learns how to fly it through the internet, and then flies over to this place, scans the area, finds a motorcade, which I guess he got some information that said, "Oh, Martin Axe is in a motorcade in this city," and I guess in Hungary or something. Yeah, so Ray finds them and like rolls over a truck in the middle of this car tunnel, shutting down, killing the guys in the front vehicle, and then Ray wanders straight up to Martin Axe's car and like opens fire with a machine gun right into the windshield. Thankfully, the windshield's bulletproof, but it's a really spooky scene because he just walks up and just like bang, bang, bang with like this cold blooded look on his face. And that results in him getting shot, whereas he plays dead for a couple minutes so he can sneak around and Batman away the security guards as they like clear the area. And this eventually results in Ray killing all the guards and using a grenade on one guy's belt to like blow open the bulletproof glass window so that he can open fire on Marnax, who as, during the scene has like noted that he seems to know who this guy is, and is not acting very much like his scene from earlier. But because of the explosion, Ray misses the first few words because his ears are ringing. As Marnax just says, "You're making a mistake," and and Ray is just like, "Thanks for the advice," calling back to earlier when Martin had killed him, and shoots Martin in the face. At which point he leaves the car tunnel and meets up with the RST guy squad outside in like a abandoned airport where he had parked the plane. Do you park a plane? I think that's what you do, park a plane. Yeah, it's a pretty intense scene. And as they go to recover him, they fuck. I am bad with names. I am bad with names. And then Jimmy Dalton, he sets fire to the jeep that Ray had taken to the airport. And as KT's talking to Ray and says, "Hey, and Ray's just like, "Yeah, I'm finished here." And KT's just like, "Yeah, me too," which is a weird thing to say. And then they fly back to wherever the KST is. It's I don't know if it's specified. Not really important, really, for the plot. They're using a plane to get around. So they come back home because essentially get Ray needs to like burn off the energy he developed as his nanobots were doing their thing, and they strap him down to the table and start draining the excess energy. As weird thing, Dalton starts taunting Ray, make like just being like an absolute asshole, just saying like a whole bunch of shit about Ray, and just like, "You're such an idiot. You're fucking dumb, you dumb piece of shit. You actually believe she's dead," is a statement that comes out as like Ray's just like steaming at this news right before they erase Ray's memories again.
Yeah, there's a pretty good point to be made here, about when the movie first started and they introduced this like merry band of like misfit disabled soldiers, where I'm like, oh, there's definitely like a joke to be made about a family, because Vin Diesel is playing the main character, and he notoriously was like this giant fucking family guy in the Fast and the Furious, but
Yep.
like then this happened, and I'm like, maybe not quite
Yeah.
such a decent family as the Fast and the Furious movies, because this guy's kind of an asshole, and like the only one that actually really likes him is fucking Katie, and
I don't know. The Tibbs seems kind of neutral to him. But KT's the one that's like
oh yeah,
attached to
and
him.
I
Yeah.
thought Dalton seemed pretty neutral at the
Yeah.
start, but like fucking all of a sudden he's just a straight dick. Like,
Yeah, even at the airport scene, he's just like, I think he even bumps into Ray, and it's like there's a weird animosity coming on here. Like Ray, like Dalton seems like a pissed with this guy for whatever reason, and you're like, what the fuck's going on here? This is dumb. And then at this point, this scene happens. You're like, oh, and then it's at this point in the movie, it is revealed that they okay. So what happened was they had done what they had said earlier, where like they brought Ray back to life with like nanites after he'd been killed for whatever reason for by some guy, and they put him to and eventually got put him to use. What's been happening actually is Ray they've been erasing Ray's memories and using the nanites to make him live through an event where they kill his wife and put the face of a guy on the like just exchange the face of the murderer every time so that they can just have him kill Dr. What's the fucking guy's name? Dr. Harding's corporate enemies. And they've just been doing that for God knows how long. I think we see like a scene a little bit later where they show the scene like where they show the guy's face like 5 times, and we see at least 5 guys. I think so. They've done this at least 5 times. The guys at RST have been constructing this action movie plot that Ray's personality like makes him go into hook, line, and sinker because he's such a man that like he's the type of guy that would absolutely go on like a no hold barred revenge quest at like this sort of thing, and they've just been doing this over and over again in order to kill off Harding's corporate enemies. And they have this whole script where like KT does the thing with the
not
metal.
necessarily corporate enemies. They were people that defected from
Yeah, corporate enemies.
RST,
Yeah,
left the company to
yeah,
go
yeah.
start
Guys that
their
had
own
left
companies.
yeah, guys that had left RST, Martin Axe being one of
What I'm
them, and
saying
yeah,
is like these people aren't like He's not like trying to kill Jeff Bezos because Jeff Bezos is necessarily RST's competitor in the field. What I'm saying is people that left his company to go rather start their own company, or yeah.
It's like if Zuckerberg hired a guy to kill the Winklevoss twins.
I mean, I can't really talk about the Winklevoss twins because apparently they're doing fairly decent for themselves at this
Oh,
point.
I imagine so. And yeah, that's a silly scenario, but that's what the scenario is. Billionaires
Yeah.
are really silly people. Let's just be honest here.
Okay, I wouldn't even say silly at this point in time. Some of it's like just straight up downright petty.
Oh yeah, no,
Like
silly and petty. Yeah,
Elon Musk and Bezos' like pissing contest is like notoriously just like absolutely stupid, and
yeah.
I don't even
Why don't one of
I
you
don't even
try to
want to talk
solve
about that
hunger
anymore.
in Africa? Why can't you compete over that? It's just like who can give who can give the starving people the most food? How about that? Let's do that. How's that for a
Mhm.
competition?
I think notoriously, like, if we're gonna go down that route, I think like Amazon has a better infrastructure to be able to do that than
Probably, yeah.
compared to
Yeah,
uh
see Bezos,
Tesla.
you can win that. You can win that competition fairly easily.
Oh, he could have won a lot of competitions fairly
Oh yeah,
easily.
no.
Like, just like I'm pretty sure there's already humanitarian awards and like people with like massive amounts of money. I think that kind of like really boils down to like the difference between like the liquid assets and other corporate assets, like,
Mhm.
and I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is like if they were to take all their money, they need to convert it from stocks into actual cash, and that would be a lot harder to do. But I mean, like, if Amazon was just like, okay, well, we've got all this extra food left in our, I don't even know where I'm going with this. Anyways, regardless, fucking capitalism is borderline just ridiculous at this point, and I don't.
This is relevant for the plot because the enemy of the movie's a billionaire. Like this is relevant because the bad guy's a billionaire. That's so we need to talk about it a little bit. It's the rules.
I think I was I was just making a comment earlier about or not even making a comment. I was thinking to myself like about talking about tech billionaires for this for the episode, and I was thinking like Bruce Wayne is a tech billionaire, and I'm like that's all his power is that he's rich and he's fucking nuts and he just beats the shit out of bad guys. That's not necessarily the case. And then I was like, there's not a whole lot of like super villains that are on the same level as Batman. And then I was like, oh wait, Lex Luthor is Superman's biggest arch nemesis, and he's notoriously just has a lot of money. That's his superpower.
Hey, like real
Like
talk,
besides like maybe like
my fan theory, like my little fan theory, is that like Lex Luthor is like purposely doing some like lobbying effort or whatever to like make Arkham Asylum shit. That so like Batman has to deal with like some lunatic's domestic terrorist every other week, so that like he can prevent Batman from doing anything meaningful. Like think of like Batman, like say Batman actually gets all the Jokers and the Riddlers in the prisons. He's gonna like all the like real crime's gonna dry up pretty quickly. So he's probably gonna move
mhm.
on to like actually doing something productive. Like I think that's actively like a possibility.
I don't I don't know what the real world equivalency of that would be at this point in time. Like Amazon telling all their employees to flood like Tesla websites with customer reviews so that they're too busy answering that for them to actually work on a new model or something. Like that's basically what you're saying is Lex Luthor, sorry, not Jeff Bezos. I don't know why I keep
They're
on
the same
getting those
guy.
confused,
Let's
but
be
like
honest. They're both bald
yeah.
billionaires.
uh like there's such another aspect to think about that when you're looking at the fact that like maybe like the biggest competitor to Lex Luthor's Loser Corp is potentially Wayne Enterprises in because like Wayne Enterprises has like a far-reaching capacity. It's not just limited to Gotham, correct?
Yeah, there's some
So
stuff in there. Yeah.
I think there's a lot to say about that theory. It's probably a little bit far-reaching, more far-reaching than what people might consider it at face value. But
Yeah, like I mean, you're telling me this guy, like Batman's got like a ton of surveillance on Arkham Asylum, and everyone still escapes every other week? Come on, someone's doing something there.
well, I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that like in the Batman v Superman, like they all hang out together in that one episode, or in that one like scene where they go to a party together. So I mean, it's not completely unrealistic.
So yeah, in the meantime, while RST is like re-skinning the like the memory and like reflavoring it, so it like so then instead of Martin Axe in the flashback, there's a guy called Nick Barris who we saw briefly on Martin Axe's phone as he was panicking in the back of this car, in the back of the car. But yeah, they're setting that all up, and yeah, they're going to set it up so he has to kill Martin Barris, and there's some conversations about that, and it's understood that this is like one of the like a one supposed to be like a one last job sort of thing. Like that they've just been using it for this and not like other stuff for whatever reason. I think yeah. I think this I'm utterly convinced he's just doing this in order to prevent like these guys from like leaking his patents out into the public and like threatening his monopoly or whatever.
So this is so fucking hilarious that like this has kind of become their pet project. Like the idea that like the nanite technology is so like super like undercover, it's like sought after. Like these guys have literally created a fucking simulated artificial fucking reality that they're not even like beginning to acknowledge the fact that this thing exists. And like just like, oh, we gotta protect the nanites because the nanites are super important. But like they literally put a human being into a simulation
Mhm.
over and over and over and over again for
So
fucking
that this guy can have like
5 years at this point in time.
so that this guy can let's be honest, probably just maintain control of some his company a bit more. That's all that's happening here. Like they probably had
Mhm.
some petty shitty argument. It's never especially like clarified they said they were going to leave the company, but like what does that mean exactly? What are the consequences of that? I can only assume it's stupid because this guy's a billionaire and it has to be something petty bullshit. Probably they
Mhm.
wanted to like make this available to the poor. It's probably what they did or something. But anyway, yeah, well, okay, so KT is like chatting with him and she's kind of annoyed with doing this. And she's just like, come on, we're doing this again. I mean, he's a human being. And like we're not giving him any choice in the matter. We're just like full on manipulating him. And Harding is just like, hey, you can leave anytime you want. And she's just like, no, I can't. The second I leave that door, you turn off my fucking lungs and I breathe to death and I like die. And and he just doesn't deny that because it's yeah, these people are slaves. These three guys, these three
Mhm.
like veterans are these wounded warrior veterans are slaves to this corporate overlord who's essentially going to turn them off at any second. And KT just gets the worst of this because she just straight up dies. The other two can at least like technically live. Like it's like yeah, you're dealing. It's a obviously a big disability, but people have spent hundreds thousands of years like working on ways to like deal with that in the best way they can. Like they'd still have lives, and unlike KT, who just gets murdered the second anything goes wrong, without any like extra steps. And probably she can't leave because she knows too much. Absolutely, yeah, yeah. This is a whole thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, so they're going to repeat this whole thing. We get a little montage of the moments as like he goes to London to go kill Nick Barris. So it's a whole thing where he he decides to walk right up to Nick's in the meantime, hold on his way over there, as Ray is like repeating his lines word for word from last time, because this movie has like a lot of like an idea about how free will works. Like this guy and like Ray's actions are like, he would not behave. He is going to do this exact same thing when presented with a scenario. The only thing that differs is like the end point, and like what he has to do to get to the guy. And as Ray's repeating these things, Dalton hears this over the speakers, and he's just like, "Oh, come on, fuck you, you dumb piece of shit." As he's like, basically, like doing like the jerk off motion with his hand, because he's like, and you kind of like see what his thought process is. He's just like, this guy's so fucking predictable. This is like, I think in like he's kind of like realizing like, oh god, like free will is a lie apparently, and like this is really bothering him, and like he's just expressing that in like utter annoyance. Like he is just he like expressing this as like utter contempt of like Ray Garrison. It is really strange, actually. It's a bit of weird characterization, but whatever.
This is such a like fuck you Dalton type moment.
Yeah.
Like I don't really understand this guy's contention with Ray Garrison, because he's like this guy hasn't had to go through what Ray Garrison went through and is like constantly reliving, and like his problem is like he can't see past the illusion that's been like created around him that you're playing a part of. Like fuck you, Dalton.
Yeah, no. Best I
Like,
can
what?
say, yeah, best I can think of is that like Dalton just like sees like this guy, and he's just, this guy is like such a robot of a person. He's so annoyingly predictable, and I have just like, it's like a contempt, like contempt for him more than like personal dislike of the guy. And like I think this is like reminding him of some bullshit. Like it's like triggering something in him. Like it really bothers him that like Ray is so predictable. It's like, it's maybe not the best characterization in the world, but think I've equated what's happening here. Um
It's like if somebody was like in Greek mythology was sitting there watching like Sisyphus roll this fucking rock up the hill continually, and then adamantly getting angry with the guy whenever the ball starts rolling back down the hill. Like what's the purpose of that at that point? Like
this fucking Sisyphus idiot, man. He is just like the stupidest fucker. The he pushes the rock up the hill and he breaks it, and he knows it's gonna fucking break every time, but he just keeps doing this. Just shit on the grass and like take a nap, you stupid piece of shit. That's what Dalton's like. That is what Dalton's like for the last 2/3 of this movie. It's fucking weird. It's great. Yeah, so yeah, that's like the implications of this are really interesting for the earlier parts of the film. The fact that like like if you thought like the first 20 minutes of this film were all hokey and like dumb, it's like, oh, this is literally just something they've constructed because they made like a bad action movie for this guy to like buy into, hook, line, and sinker. And I think maybe there's even some commentary of just like ability for like how like a big straight male fantasy is like avenging like a loved one's death through like a big dumb action movie. And like I think it's maybe making a comment about that, or like making some point about that. I don't think, and I don't mean that in like a wholly negative sense either. Like I don't think the movie certainly doesn't view Garrison as like a bad guy. Like it's certainly understandable. And we'll get into this a bit more, but it's very much like maybe at most like saying like, hey, maybe it's weird that like we just like resort to this at the first moment, and like this is just like such a fantasy that like he was willing to like, this is like the plot, like if the plot of Taken actually happened to you and like you just believed it to be true, like you would never like he never questions it, the fact that he's just been placed in this thing that's like a weird thing. It's like it's very much like the Truman Show, where just like dude, everything in this world is so fake. How do you buy into it? And yeah, he bought into it. I think that's meant to say something about the character. But I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think it's saying anything bad necessarily. It's just like a comment, something to note for later. But yeah, and like, why are like? I suppose the other big question, the audience could ask is like, why are they doing this? Like, why don't they just straight up brainwash them? I think they just can't straight up brainwash them. Also, there's like, I don't think that they can like make Ray do these sort of things. Because here's what I seem to think happened. I think like, if like, they're clearly drawing, like, given what we see later in the movie, like they're drawing from like Ray's memories and like creating an action movie from like stuff in his life. Like, Gina's a real person and all that. And the last and like the thing he's constantly getting shit for from Gina is just like, "Oh yeah, I want you to stay home." And he's just like, "No, I'll always come home, babe. Don't worry about it." And then what, imagine for a second, like, you, a real person, have said that to your wife like several times, and then one day you don't come home, but for the grace of God, like, some guy just brings you back to life. Like, you think you're going to fucking sit around and do this guy's wet work? No, you're going back to your girlfriend because, like, oh yeah, I guess she was right. I should go apologize to her probably. I don't think they were
I,
able,
I
like,
love I love the idea that like you fucking Ray is, like makes this giant declaration and promise like at the start of the movie, that he always comes home, and then like 10 minutes later he doesn't actually come home at all, like, and then he doesn't come home again for like the next I don't know, like 50 minutes of the movie, and then finally he comes home and she's like, yeah, I fucking left you, you daft cunt.
it's revealed a little later that, like, yeah, they had, yeah, they like, I don't even know if they got married, and like, it's not even clear if they got married in real life. And he goes back to her a little later and she's just like, "Yeah, you wouldn't like stay home, so I left you because I couldn't bear like you, like, watching you risk his life." And I guess they lost contact and then he fucking died somehow. And like, given that context, do you think you'd ever fucking like do any military stuff again? Like, it'd just be like, "Yeah, she was right. I should have just stayed home, and I'm going to go do that." So, yeah, that's probably why they're brainwashing him, is because they couldn't like convince him to do this otherwise. And they can't like, unlike they can't exactly like, I guess they could like maybe threaten him and just like, "Hey, we're going to like paralyze you forever and like keep you a little conscious until you agree to do our stuff." But like, it's entirely possible that maybe like they tried that, but they needed to start getting rid of these guys quick. They needed to start getting rid of these corporate guys and they just couldn't wait.
But like theoretically, couldn't you just like notoriously, if you wanted to just theoretically get rid of these guys, that's like easily doable by just manipulating some of this memory creating devices that you've already have created, right?
Well, I think they can just, I don't think they can use it on anyone else but Ray, because I think they're doing it through like the nanites. I don't think like this is like the Matrix. I don't think you can plug anyone into it. I think they send information
Okay.
into it, but I don't think they can affect like a normal
Hmm.
person's brain with it. Like, if I built a robot, I could maybe connect that robot to the internet, but you can't connect a human to the internet the same way.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think happening here. I think a lot of this is like a consequence of like, Ray Garrison is some sort of cyborg now, and that means they can do some stuff with him that you can't do with like a normal person. I think the other thing they maybe could have done was like erase all of his memory and like create his like personality from scratch, but I don't know how feasible it is. You could easily like hand wave that away pretty easily. And maybe they can't erase any memories they didn't create. I don't know. We'll leave this to
Once
some.
again, I just feel like this literally boils down to like corporate structure.
Yeah.
Like, make your employees sign a do not compete if you ever leave a company, and or an NDNR, non-disclosure agreement, if they've ever decide to quit the company. Like, I don't know how hard this is. I don't know why this guy went like, oh, people are leaving my company, let's just straight up fucking murder them. Or like, hey, you want some nanobite augmentations because you worked with me on this project? Okay, cool. And then set it up, and then as soon as they leave the company, like, they just straight murder them. I don't know why they're like, we need to put Ray Garrison in this situation where we have to super soldier him and then kill him, and I don't know.
Maybe there's like a whole other behind the
Like, I
scenes
guess it's
thing.
a
I don't know.
feasible solution.
Like maybe there's like some whole other reason, but I think it's like an
It's not the
acceptable
most
amount of.
practical.
Also, this guy's maybe withholding like the best prosthetic limb technology that ever could exist, and it's just like hoarding it to himself and not like releasing it to the public as much. I don't know. Who knows? Like there could be any number of reasons they could have just said. Yeah.
Well, like, I think notoriously his plan is just to sell it, right? To the highest bidder is what he said earlier on in the film. So, like, he's only in it for the
And
money.
maybe they are too. There's some, yeah.
Like, you might, like, look at him as an altruist because, like, soldiers are getting, like, a second chance at life, but the only reason they're getting a second chance at life is to go back to doing soldier work.
Yeah, that's maybe some of it. But yeah, we'll get into the next thing. Ray wanders up to Barris's house and just says, "Hey, I'm gonna kill your boss. You want to let me in?" So they shoot him, and then he just like Trojan horses his way in because they drag his body inside the building. But he eventually just like revives when there's only like two guys around and beats them up. In the meantime, Barris brings this guy. We'll learn his name's Wiggins. I like Wiggins. Wiggins is a fun character. He's this he's this British African guy, and he's great. I love him.
He's not though. Like, his character. I was gonna say something about this when I got the chance. The character is played by, I do believe, Lamar Morn. I could be saying that wrong, but he's an American actor. And watching him put on this, I wouldn't define it as like a Cockney accent quite, but like it's somewhere in between like Cockney and
I don't know my British accents.
British. I don't know. I know Cockney is a little like I don't know how you'd say that. Like, just
I don't know the words for the accents, as
like
in like
it's what you would classify as like fast British accent,
yeah.
but
He's good. He's funny though. I like him. And like Barris brings him up to his office, and just says, "Hey, you got your thing ready to deal with this?" And he's just like, yeah, but like it needs to charge." And he sets it up with Barris. We find out a little bit later that Barris is enslaved Wiggins. Well, indentured servitude Wiggins, but it's kind of the same thing.
yeah, are we really? Yeah, but are we really gonna like think less of Barris at this point in time when like the other like evil technological billionaire is like, I'm going to indenture 4 soldiers compared to this one super genius. Like,
I mean, it doesn't make him a good guy. Let's just make that like most bar fights are between like two drunk assholes. There's not like one drunk asshole and like one guy who was just minding his own business. It's usually like two assholes getting into a fight. So like maybe Barris did piss him off. It's just that like Harding just happened to have the fancy trump card. He happened to have the gun in this situation that put the fight over into his favor. Like it's like I think I'd say Barris is probably a bit of a piece of shit too. Who's to say? But I mean, he has enslaved this guy. But sorry, indentured servitude. This guy. I'm aware that some people think that's like a big difference, but it like slavery's like indentured servitude is a form of slavery. It's just that like indentured servitude, the definition is you essentially let someone enslave you for a certain amount of time until you've paid off some sort of debt or earned some service. it's highly unethical, and it was usually used because the guys would die before they finished paying off their debt, is how they made their money on that. And as soon as people started living through that whole thing, they had to get rid of it because all the rich guys started losing money. Like, that's the real story about how indentured servitude ended. They couldn't find a way to keep them enslaved long enough. This has been a good prequel month for our finale. This is stuff we're all gonna revisit for that. This is gonna be fun. But yeah, no, that was a whole fucking thing. Anyway, so yeah, they're getting the RST guys are watching this via satellite or drone or whatever, and they see this thing Higgins put this thing on the desk, and it's like they find out, oh, that's an EMP. We're also given Higgins' backstory is that he's like a child prodigy that didn't want to work for any of the big companies, so I guess Barris eventually enslaved him because he wouldn't just take anyone's money. So they set that up, but the EMP needs to charge. So Barris is just going to sit around shitting himself in his office while he waits for this thing to charge up. And while it's charging up, before he can get the charge open, Ray shows up in Barris's office and then kills Barris with his own fancy desk. So yeah, that's a thing. And after Barris is dead, Wiggins takes out a cell phone and detonates the EMP, disabling all the electronics in the building, killing all the guys that after all the guys that were enslaving Wiggins had been killed, and then disabling Ray Garrison so that him and Wiggins can have a little talk. The RST guys can't do anything about this because no one's on site. I guess Dalton and Tibbs are on their way as soon as this happens, or who knows? Maybe they're following. Who can say? They probably left a little bit after. After fucking Ray took the plane over to London. So yeah, that's the thing. So Ray wakes up a little bit after Higgins recharges his power with a big car battery. So Ray's back up with the memories that happens, and Wiggins starts to explain, ask what happened, and they start to piece together what's been going on as Ray starts getting some of those memories back, and they slowly realize what happens, and the two of them piece together what's been going on and figure it out. Also, Ray gives Higgins a bit of a blood nanite sample so that he can maybe reverse engineer the nanites so that they can't shut him down from a distance. So that's a thing. There's also no server connect. Because of the shutdown. Ray is not connected to the RST servers. He's been disconnected, and I guess maybe there's probably some tech reason they can't just reestablish the link without having him plugged in or something. Or maybe Ray would need to do it on his end, and Ray's not going to do that. So yeah, Ray decides to go find his wife, who lives in London, which is convenient. Although that's an interesting note. That's why we were talking about earlier about not noticing Gina's accent. Maybe they don't know what Gina actually sounded like, so they just inserted her voice, just any voice into that earlier scene, and didn't know that she was an English woman.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was maybe a hint, or like an interesting, I suppose not a hint, but an interesting note on a rewatch. So yeah, he goes there, finds his wife, and it's revealed that and they're like friendly at first. And it's like, oh yay, hey Ray, how are you doing? And eventually it gets awkward when she realizes why Ray's here, and she's just like, I left you, man. And she has like kids now and everything with presumably another man, and Ray's just like, yeah, they had broken up and whatever. I don't even know if they got married in this universe in like real life, but Ray's just like, when's the last time you saw me? Please, I need you to answer that. And she's just like, 5 years. And he's just like, oh god. And like you can see Gina's like realizing that like, oh shit, this guy's got like brain damage or something. And she's just like, do you
Hmm.
need me to call anybody? And then he disappears like Batman, which that's actually a really interesting scene. And like you go through like 6 different emotions, and I thought it was really interesting because you go through like, oh hey buddy, how's this been? Yeah, yeah, this is a good movie. I
I
don't
was
like,
gonna say that
yeah.
like
Go ahead.
it could be better,
Yeah, true.
and I think it could be better because like you see a lot of behind the scenes stuff with the villains, and I think because of that you kind of lose the potency of this kind of big reveal that Ray's been back and forth between like 5 years. Like yeah, like you could have M. Night Shyamalan twisted the fuck out of this, but once again, it's kind of not necessarily the point of that, but like it could have been cooler. Just saying.
I think yeah, there's definitely points for improvement. Like I did contemplate maybe giving this a 10, but I'm like, no, there's definitely like a few things they could have fixed. Like there's maybe some issues where like
Hmm.
you switch around some scenes. Are these guys the absolute best actors in the world? Not necessarily. I think they do like an okay job. Like they're making the use of like not having any like very A tier actors. But I think they make the most of it. But I think there's a lot here
Or it
that
could have
to
been like
love. Yeah.
really, yeah, or you could have just like really made it super ambiguous to the point where like I think if Reyes was questioning his reality a lot more in the scenario, it'd be kind of a bit cooler. Like if he's
I don't
questioning
know.
like not necessarily if Gina ever existed, but like if Gina was like ever truly in love with him, that it could have really driven the idea home. What would happen if Gina like was just a paid actor that RST hired to finally push her? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, I like how they went with it. Like I think that's like they do enough with like the premise to make it work. I also think like one of the
Mhm.
things that maybe could have been done. There's like if like the parts that were in proper flashback were like in a totally different cinematography style. I think there's some hints that it's done a little bit differently. Like the simulation seems a lot more Michael Bavian a little bit on my rewatch, and like there's moments where like they like do like the thing where like there's a bit of sunlight behind the hot actress's head, and she's like all like in a skimpy outfit, and it's like it's hugging her curves and whatnot, and like it does a lot of things that like I feel like Michael Bay could do, but like Michael Bay would do that like straight for the entire movie. And like I think if that would be like a big thing if like the simulations was just thought entirely different. And I don't, maybe you can say it is. I'm not like a cinematography expert, but like there's stuff that happens in the simulation scenes which don't happen as much in the rest of the movie. But I wouldn't feel comfortable with my level of expertise saying, "Oh yeah, this movie that scene is like shot entirely different from the rest of the movie."
And like that's probably something that you might catch on like on the rewatch. It's like one of those like I see dead people like moments where you're like, "Oh, this makes more sense now that I've seen the plot." I wonder if I can go back and like look for errors within like the direction of the film or like how the
More
film's
hints. Yeah.
portrayed and if it holds up to like the absolute level that it's supposed to as a plot twist type thing, right? So
Yeah, there are hints, but I just don't know that it's like as well established as some other people might have done it. But I think there's enough like there's
mhm.
some like I'll call them Michael Bayisms in like the simulation scenes that like I don't know exist as much in the rest of the movie. But I think there's a case to be like I think you could do it better, but I think there's some of it there. I just like you could absolutely like have like an alternate universe where that's just pushed up to an 11. I just don't know that it's been done here. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like some cinematography buff will like watch this after watching this and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's absolutely what happened. This is true. Like you saw it, but like I can like explain in like a big like essay format about what happened differently. But I'm just not like versed enough in cinematography to like make that claim definitively. I think there's stuff that doesn't happen in like the later part of the movies, but I just don't know. It's like as firm a contrast as it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as Ray's driving around to go catch up with Wiggins, they go to, as he's driving around, he gets rammed by Dalton, who goes to go get into a fist fight with Ray, and Ray ends up getting away. He in the process of this little fight throughout, I guess, this residential part of England, someplace. I think maybe it's London, but they could have left the city. I don't know how long it's been. Ray just swipes a submachine gun from some random police car. That's just a funny scene. That's just great. Just snap, like grabs the police, like reaches into a random police car and like pulls out a submachine gun as if he was just like looting an enemy in Fallout 4 or something. It's great, hilarious. I love it. And the cops are just like, what's happening? What happened? The cops do not contribute to this fight at all. It's hilarious. Just how bystander they are in this. As they fight a bit, Ray and Dalton are on the ground, like punching each other when they get hit by a truck. Dalton's legs get destroyed. Ray obviously stands up from the hit and is like recovering, and like the truck driver gets out of his vehicle and he's just like, "Oh my god, are you alright?" Oh, and then it sees like Vin Diesel like doing like the T1000 thing where he's like recovering from the injury, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was walking into the set of Terminator 2. I'm going to go." It's just fucking
I
great. I
love
love it.
like the amount of level where this truck driver's just kind of like nopes out of this fucking scenario where he's like, UPS doesn't fucking pay me enough to deal with hitting the fucking Terminator with my vehicle. I am not going to contribute it to it.
No, I'm not going to deal with like the modern equivalent of Arnold Schwarzenegger here. I'm not like into that idea at all. I'm gonna go. You blokes
Mhm.
sort all this out. And I will come back and get my truck later. It's
Pretty
great.
much.
Yeah. Tibbs does like a drive by where he stabs like a needle into Ray's back and gets him to shut down and like reestablishes like a server link so that they can shut him down. And they go to bring Ray home. In the meantime, what is the guy's name? I closed the thing so that I can't see what people's names are. Harding tells KT to go kill Wiggins. So that's a thing. She's just like, no, I'm not doing that. Have one of your other guys do it. And then he shuts down her lungs so that she'll go do it. Proving the point from earlier. I like that little Chekhov's gun moment where like he just lets that like comment from KT stand. That's yeah, no, go. You'll just kill me if I leave. And he's just like, yeah, I'm going to do it wordlessly. I just do it. And she goes to go do it because that's a thing. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Wiggins has acquired some bodyguards, and he is going to somehow. I wasn't aware he had that kind of money. Oh, maybe he does. He did turn down some like big tech jobs apparently. KT is standing there and it's just like, "Hey, Wiggins, hey, nerd guy who's I'm pretending to be attracted to. Have you got a light?" And she's just like, "Yeah, I got a light." And then it turns out the cigarette is like contains like knockout gas or something, and that knocks Wiggins unconscious. Well, KT goes to deal with the security guard with his bodyguards who are it's basically every fight scene that includes like a lady action star ever of the last 10 years. They do that
Mhm.
thing where like she like does the big swing around of the guy with like her legs out. I don't know my martial arts to know what that's called. I wasn't aware it was a real thing. I'm not sure if it's a real thing, but I think they need to like put this technique on rest. I feel like everyone's done it from like from Melissa McCarthy to like Scarlett Johansson. Everyone's done it. It's a whole thing. So maybe they should do that. So yeah, KT has captured Wiggins. We cut back to RST where Harding and Ray have a little bit of a top talk in the mindscape. I guess Harding's doing like a one last chance to like try to talk some sense into, or like talk some sense in quotes to Ray. Ray, he's just like, hey, I made you exceptional. You soldier types, you need structure, and I'm here to provide that structure. Really, you need me. And yeah, I manipulated it, but really I made you the best you could be by putting you to like the best use a man like you is capable of. All this manufacturing consent fascist bullshit. And Ray's just like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know why I did what I did. You you fucking made me relive like my wife getting murdered like 10 times or something. You are manipulating me. I'm not doing anything you say. And I will find, and starts like reciting the thing from the beginning of the movie that he was saying to the in the memory. It's just like, I will find you, and they shut him down because this is like Ray's nature. If you wrong him, he will
Yeah.
he's an action hero, and this is all he responds to, and he will leave the second he gives any
I'd like
opportunity.
to. I'd like to see like any like top level general like just like giving this speech to like a foot soldier, or like fucking the president of the United States, like using this as like motivational speech to the troops, where he's like, I've made you useful. Before this, you were not useful, but now that I've just gotten into an international like conflict, you guys now have purpose in life." Like, what?
Except this isn't even a general. This is just like a guy saying this is like, hey, let me
Mhm.
use you to like deal with like my petty corporate rivalry or whatever this bullshit is. It's I love this scene actually. The presumption, like Guy Pearce is doing like such a good billionaire thing here. Like he's pulling like all the bullshit stops all these billionaires pull, where they like try to make themselves into the fucking center of the universe and the one true messiah of everything. Like everything revolves around me, and like everyone should do what I say because
Mhm.
I know what's best, and I know what your motivations are. And yeah, and Ray's just like, no, you don't. I'm not like, don't work for you. You don't understand my life or what my motivations were. Like I'm a unique person. I do things. And yeah, and it's a whole thing. I think there's a lot to say about this. It's just like Harding is just like, you're a predictable animal, you're a predictable little animal, and I've put you to to your proper use, which is such a great metaphor now that thinking about it. It's like, yeah, Ray's a predictable creature. Like you put him in a scenario, yeah, it doesn't matter that he has whether or not he has free will. Like what Harding's doing is still wrong. Is he like a high-end intellectual creature? Maybe it is all he's good for, but that doesn't mean that like Harding gets to like use him for his purposes. That's just, I think, a great statement in a way. But yeah, just nuts, and I love
I
it.
think also that boils back down to I remember I was watching this clip on Facebook, and it was Ben Shapiro, and I fucking hate that
Oh,
guy,
that
but
fucking
he
guy.
was talking to this random person in the audience, and they were talking about how useful labor is and who should profit off of labor. Is it the guy who sunk $1 million into the corporation, or the workers that understand how to do a job? And that kind of boils down to what's happening here. Hart dumped billions of dollars into creating Deadshot, but Deadshot still, or Bloodshot. Fuck you, Kyle. That's on you.
Yeah, Deadshot's a different guy. Yeah.
For those of you who can't see it, Kyle has a thing where
Oh,
he
yeah.
names every single movie in the Zencaster.
I
And
didn't
he
even
has it
notice
as
I did it.
Deadshot here, so I'm looking over and I
I
was
did.
reading it, and yeah, it says Deadshot on the screen when
I
I was
didn't even
looking
intend to do it
Bloodshot,
that
but
time.
as I say,
That's so perfect.
uh,
That's the best joke I could have come up with. I was just like, oh, I can't even think of a joke for this one, so I'll just put in the name of the movie, which is Deadshot, which I am remembering. Which, I mean, it's such a generic name, but it worked out so well. I made the right decision. I'm so validated right now.
well, the Deadshot's is no, yeah,
Yeah,
Deadshot's
Deadshot's.
a comic book villain in
Yeah, he's in the
something
Suicide
else
Squad. Will Smith played
in
him
like
in the
DC.
yeah in the movie.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Not Deathstroke. Deathstroke's a different character, but
Another
also
guy.
very similar.
You see what I mean when these guys when I
Yeah.
said this guy was like Bloodshot was part of a trend? Like there's just a guy.
Yeah.
There's well, Deadshot came out earlier, but like they reinvented him in the 80s to kind of like fit into this theme. But there's like Deadshot, Deathstroke, Deadpool, Bloodshot.
Deathshot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloodshot. There's a
Bloodstrike.
lot.
Bunch of guys that aren't using that same, but like Chapel, Nick Fury kind of does that. There was a bunch of guys. There was like Solo, Silver Sable was kind of this. Oh, I could go on. Whatever. We're moving. Cable's like that too. Anyway,
Mhm.
moving on. Moving on. Where were we?
I was trying to make a point that was kind of similar, but also doesn't really need to be stated. Like people should be paid for their labors. Um, Ben Shapiro's point was like if the thing burnt down the next day, that the person would be out of job, and then their labor is worth nothing,
And yeah,
which is dumb. But
and he's also like ignoring like the millions of examples of like there was like a whole thing actually with like these high end like massage therapists and like pedicurists and whatnot in like LA that like did it for like celebrities and whatnot, and like they pay these places where you like pay like $800 to get your nails done in like LA or whatever, and like the fancy parts of New York. And like when pandemic hit
Mhm.
and all those like studios and like shops closed down, like and all those young like pedicurists or whatnot got laid off, they just like made a phone call to like I don't know whatever celebrity would they did their stuff for, whatever rich lady wanted they that went to her to get her nails done, because like in that sort of thing, or like hairdressers, it's like they'll have their person like, yeah, I have Diane do my hair
Mhm.
and like Chi Chi do my nails, and like if she's just like, hey, I'll still do that if you'll let me like come to your house and I'll do that for you, and they did it, that like thousands
Yeah,
of
of course.
people just started making like tons of money, because it's like, oh, what, I'll yeah, you pay me $800, I'll get like the stuff I need, which may not even be a lot. Like it could be anything from like a pair of
Yeah.
scissors, and like some of those ladies might have even owned some of their stuff. I don't know, like maybe I'll ask this next time I'm getting my haircut. I'll ask ask her what all she owns from there, because
Yeah,
it's yeah.
I really dislike the uh salon business model where it's like, oh, you don't actually own anything. You rent a chair in a salon to be able to sit there and sell your labor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they sell their chair space essentially, but I don't know if they own their equipment or whatever.
Oh, probably. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, if they like that could be
I don't
happening.
know how much like barber scissors go for, but it can't be that much,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, like it's a totally a thing. Like
So,
that was a thing. Like that was a scenario like in the early pandemic where like all these high end ladies that pay like $800 to get their nails done were just like, hey, May, could you come to my house and do my nails? Is that a thing you could do? And they, yeah. So like a lot of people made some extra money, not need like just went into business for themselves. And like yeah, there might have been like some things they couldn't do
yeah.
at first, but like 2-3 times, maybe maybe after a couple like a few months you have your money and you can make that work, and you can do like house calls and whatnot. But yeah, that's a
Oh
whole
yeah.
thing. Yeah, very interesting. Anyway, yeah, my point is you can like those are also scenarios. Like your boss isn't necessarily offering you a ton of shit. Like with mines and whatnot,
Mhm.
that's one thing where like the guy owns the land where you're pulling the coal out of or whatever. But yeah, there's lots of things where that isn't true and just
No,
people
no,
are
no, no,
just
no,
like,
no.
yeah.
What I'm saying though is I think the example they were using though is they're talking about a pencil factory. Okay,
Mhm.
if tomorrow the people decided that they no longer wanted to work for this pencil factory, who's out the money then? Because their argument was that I've put up all the capital and all the risk into starting this pencil factory. That's all you have is labor. If you don't have the labor to work this pencil factory, what do you own?
Yeah.
$100 million worth of debt into a pencil factory that can't keep its overhead. So,
Yeah, there's some leverage there that will, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, she KT wanders back to RST. Yeah, so she talks to Dalton on her way in. He's just like, "Yeah, we're putting him asleep again," essentially. And she's just like, "What? That's so terrible that they're doing that to him." I don't even know that like you can convincingly necessarily say that she has like a romantic interest in like Ray. I don't think you need to read that into this, but like shit, like that's a perfectly like, yeah, I don't like approve this random stranger being like periodically brainwashed and used as an assassin. Like that's an easy thing to disapprove of.
mhm,
And she is being used by this billionaire for essentially eye candy, essentially, and like playing off like using her as like a thing, which is yeah. But yeah, so she wanders in and tells KT that Wiggins escaped, or not. Yeah, KT tells Harding that Wiggins escaped, and he's just like, "Oh shit, um, okay, guys, let's put like Ray through this one more time," and he puts them, and they start resetting the simulation and getting all that ready. But she goes to go deal with that. She goes to leave because it's her job to like reset the it's apparently her job to reset like Ray's bunk where they let him sleep, which is weird. They just don't have the janitor do it. Though I don't know how much everyone else in the building knows about this. Who knows? That'd be weird if like no one else in the building knows what's going on, and just at the end of this movie when they have the big action sequence, like, what the fuck? Why are these guys fighting in here? Who the fuck are these people? Like, what's going on? And they're just totally blindsided. That'd be kind of funny. We don't see any of them though, so I mean, extras cost money, so. But yeah, so she goes down and does some stuff to interrupt with the system, and she hooks in Higgins to the network. So yeah, Higgins is in a van at the bottom of the building, and he is hacking into all the systems and doing all that shit. And also he's disabled Harding's ability to shut her down, Katie down. So yeah, that's a thing. She does a thing where she interrupts Ray's simulation, and yeah, so and they eventually manage to wake up Ray, and Ray gets a look at the guy who's been writing the program, and and the guy just kind of shits himself because he's just like, oh, oh no, that's awful. Like that's a certain amount of thing. Just making eye contact with that guy you've manipulated for months, or who knows how long this has been. This could take place over the period of like anything from several weeks to months. I don't know, maybe years. Who can say? So yeah, Ray starts busting his way through the RST building. KT blows up the servers in a really silly looking scene where like she throws these smoke grenade things, which I guess are filling the room with like flammable gas so that she can like set the whole room on fire. All the while Wiggins is like explaining to her through an earpiece that about the details of how to erase everything on a server through like the computers. And yeah, that's a whole thing. Dalton gets a bunch of extra arms stapled onto his back, which is kind of cool. Which are kind of a cool effect. It seems a little weird. It's a little dumb, but it's kind of cool. I think they make good use of it. So Dalton goes to fight Ray, and they get into a fist fight. Which eventually ends up with them fighting on an elevator, which is mounted to the outside of the building. I know they do that, but it's never like the best thing to do. I think it's always weird. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about elevators strapped onto the outside of buildings. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I don't know what like the code is on that, but anyway, that's beside the point. Blind Tibbs is fighting. He ends up eventually. It results in Dalton like cutting the cables to the elevator while Tibbs is on the elevator, and he falls off. So Dalton killed Tibbs just as a casualty, and he's like, "I told him to hang on," but unfortunately for Dalton, Ray manages to jump up from the elevator and give Dalton a big smack in the face and beats him up, and no, and they end up falling to the ground, presumably killing Dalton. At this point, Ray is starting to overclock his nanites, and he's starting to look like the comic. Like his skin is all white, and he's got a big red light in the middle of his chest. And he manages to find the CEO just as he's getting into a vehicle and trying to fuck off. Harding takes a grenade launcher out of the back of this SUV, which he just has for whatever reason. Harding shoots him with the grenade. It blows him up, but it puts a significant strain on the nanites. He is down to like 1%, and like there's not a lot of energy left. Harding shoots another grenade at Ray, and Ray uses the nanites to like strip away the parts of the grenade and just leave it as the detonator, which which he just picks up in his hand. Harding says, "Hey, you can't survive without me, and you need me and whatnot." And it's a whole thing. It's pointed out sometime in this conversation that they can't bring him back to life if he reaches 0% energy or whatever. But after this, Ray and Harding are standing face to face, and like Harding's doing his whole thing. We're just like, you're just Ray Garrison without me. And Ray's just like, that's enough. And he drops the grenade on the ground, blowing them both up. So then we end the movie with Wiggins bringing Ray back to life. And like informing him that he no longer needs to like rely on the battery system that they were using before. It's not consistent how that works. It's weird. But anyway, I find that's another weird thing. Like sometimes it's like, oh, is this a battery that needs to be recharged, or is it overheating that's the issue? And I feel like they play with a bit of both of those angles, and it doesn't make a lot of sense if you're really paying attention. But yeah, so yeah, they bring off Ray, KT, and Wiggins drive off in the sunset in like a truck and an RV, which is really neat. And Wiggins comments on like, "Oh God, we're actually driving off into the sunset. How cliche!" And that's the end of the movie. Good movie.
It's definitely better than what I expected.
Yeah, no, really, yeah, no. Like people shit on this movie, but it's actually got some chops in places. I get not liking as much as I like it,
Mhm.
but like it's not like a brain dead movie. I think it does a lot of work with. I think it does a lot of work with the premise, and it does like a lot of covers a lot of ground with it.
Some of the cinematography, like the fighting sequences, were really cool. I think at one point in time, Ray Garrison literally picks somebody up and throws them at another person, which is always cool to see. I like when they like people weaponize other people to
Stab a guy with another guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
essentially. Also he like picks up a fucking rips a door off the hinges and then starts using that as like a battering ram at some point in time to like plow into other people. It kind of boils down to like how much do you like flashbacks and callbacks to jokes within movies from earlier on in the movie? Kind
Yeah,
of
there is a
gets
lot of that. They make use of it.
after a while it's kind of diminished, but like, the first couple times it was good.
Like, I think they run this premise through like pretty well its cores. There's some stuff that doesn't make sense, but I think there's small things that like you can ignore if you're enjoying the movie. And I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Hmm.
And like some people don't like Vin Diesel, but I'm a big Vin Diesel fan, so I like it. Obviously there's no like really like I think Guy Pearce is the most accomplished actor. What's Guy Pearce in? Like what is
uh the name's familiar, but I don't
yeah,
know what he's
let me just
done.
he's in Memento. Movies I've seen, I don't think he's like a main character too much. He's in Hurt Locker, he's in Iron Man 3, he's in the I no. Yeah, he's in the he's in the Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Oh,
He's in
he's
Ravenous.
the one of the bad guys in Iron Man 3.
Yep.
He isn't he's not he's the guy who's like Aldrich Killian. Not the guy I was thinking. I was thinking of Hammer
Yeah, no,
from
that's the
the
guy from Iron
Hammer
Man 2.
Industry that
This
was
is a
CG'd.
similar character in Iron
Yeah.
Man 3. Yeah, no, he's been in stuff. I don't know if I'd call him like the biggest actor in the world either. But yeah, no, he's pretty yeah, they don't I don't think they have like a big time actor in any of this, but he does it like everyone I think does a good job. Does anyone have like an amazing performance? I don't know. I liked a lot of the performances. I just don't think they're like Oscar worthy. But it's an action movie. Whose winner action movie performance is ever Oscar worthy? It happens. It's not terribly often. But I think this movie is like very unappreciated. I think a lot of it's because of the pandemic, but I just think in general, like this is really good. What do you give the
I
movie?
just
Or go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, if this movie was released in better times,
Yeah,
I don't know if you personally, like, you as a company director or company spokesperson for like any form of company man should like try and recreate this or add sequels onto it. And that's kind of where it's holding a lot of its own problems, is like it can stand alone as a good movie. If you try and add to that, it's going to take away from what you've already created.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Like they might have to like
But
ignore all. Yeah,
that's fine if you're utilizing the flagship of Bloodshot to maybe try and create a whole cinematic universe, necessarily not necessarily within the same universe, but somewhere like within its own franchise. So like Valiant Comics releasing other characters and original stories based around the comic books, and using that as kind of your leaping point from Bloodshot, where you're like, well, we made our money's worth and then some off this movie, but they didn't do that. So I mean,
yeah. This movie could have like if this movie had like made like a regular like I think if this got a regular release, it might have made a proper profit, but it didn't. That's just the fact of the matter. Like
mhm.
it didn't have the opportunity. Like I think it did do all right on streaming. I think it was like the most watched thing for like a couple weeks, but yeah, like it couldn't possibly have like made its money the way it would have with like a proper theatrical release. I think like all you need is 90 million, which isn't a lot as far as like a superhero movie goes. If this makes 100 mil, I think it does fine.
If it makes 100 mil, I'd be quite frankly shocked. Don't know how niche Valiant Comics is though. That's kind of my like I don't know what type of demographic you're trying to sell this movie to. Are you trying to sell it to people who seen the comic or read the comics before? How big that is? You've got Vin Diesel, so you've got kind of that as an attraction to it too. It's an action movie, so some people will just pick an action movie over anything else playing in the theaters, or I mean, it's not like a rated R action movie. I think like it was PG-13 when I was
I think
watching
it
it on
is.
Netflix.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still somewhat I wouldn't say family friendly, but it's still better than some of the other ones. So like I mean, you could bring your kids to it in theory. I'm not suggesting that, but
It's got like that Terminator 2 vibe though. It's got like a Terminator vibe where like the I wouldn't say body horror, but it's like the Terminator without any like makeup. It's like a sufficiently like scary looking thing. And Vin Diesel's nanite
mhm.
stuff kind of has that going for it. So it does like kind of it doesn't like show its soft like PG-13ness as much as some other stuff.
But I gotta say, I think Vin Diesel was the better choice. I think I was reading up earlier that like Jared Leto was in contention to play the main character. I think Jared Leto's probably a lot less of a money draw for it, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Like Jared Leto is a fine actor and all, but I don't think he's leading man in like an action movie level like draw for audience appeal
Doesn't
type
sound like
ordeal.
Morbius did very good, but I haven't seen it yet. I was gonna go tonight, but we ended up doing this, so
Mhm.
hopefully it gets held over and I'll get to see it.
As for a score, I'd probably put this in around like a 7 out of 10 in my opinion. Definitely like a sleeper hit in my opinion. We just there's been a couple of times where movies kind of um surprised me more considering with like what we're what we are as a podcast. We expect to come in and hate everything, but this one was, I'm not gonna say the best action movie, and I'm not gonna say the worst action movie. I don't even know where I'd classify that upward anywhere, in terms of action movies. But this one kind of spoke a lot about what I would have liked to seen in like a thriller.
Yeah, it doesn't lean on the comic book stuff too much. Like I didn't even call him Bloodshot throughout the review because he doesn't go by that name. I don't think. I don't even think it's brought up at all. I think it's just like at this point a name for the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is like a solid action movie just on its own. I think it's kind of like a if you like it's maybe like a bit like Total Recall, like kind of like a different take on that, which I kind of like. I'm giving it a 9. This is like now like this is one of my favorite movies now. It's like it's the most recent movie to make the list of my favorite movies of all time. Like obviously there's some issues there. It doesn't earn the 10, but yeah, no, I'm giving it a good 9.
And I think that that boils back down to what I was saying before is like things have become so cliche as like action movies go that you kind of need to litter it with like science fiction, for example, something in the realm of possibilities to try and make them more interesting because like if you take away the whole science fiction element of this movie, you just got like a pseudo, I don't know, pseudo action movie. Like I don't think you really even have a decent enough plot to make this movie work. Like if it leans heavily into the science fiction genre more than it does into the action hero aspect of it.
But I just think this movie's amazing. Like I think it says like it plays around with like the act it like because of how it's constructed, and I like how like they put him like in a simulation of like a literal bad action movie, and they get to play with like that, and I think it says something about the tropes. I might just have to do like an essay about this movie and like talk about why it's great. And watch it like 5 more times.
I think that's I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Once again, I don't see this ever becoming any more of a thing than it already was. Vin Diesel has expressed that he would definitely come back and do like a part two of it, but I just don't think that
They're
there
dealing with
should be a
something,
part
yeah.
two to it, in my
Yeah, they're
opinion.
dealing with
But
something very differently at that point, I think. Though I don't know,
mhm.
maybe they have something in the bin that like works pretty really good. I can't say I haven't read all the comics, so maybe there is like some amazing other Bloodshot storyline they could take advantage of. But who
Yeah, and
knows?
I guess that it also depends on how like Bloodshot as a comic works within its own medium, compared to what we see on screen. Because if this was like a whole entire story arc from like comic book 1 to like comic book 50, and that's all it ever was, like, hey, cool, you've kind of taken everything from or from the original source material and kind of sponged out the big parts
Yeah.
to make a subpar or a semi decent action movie. But like, once again, I can't speak to it. Um,
Me neither.
as I was saying earlier, they kind of, as writers, wrote themselves into a box and then out of a box, which is okay
Hmm.
because it works.
Yeah.
But I can't see where they'd go past that.
And who knows? Maybe we're just not thinking of something. Yeah, like maybe they just have something lying around that just like, oh shit, that was actually amazing. But who can say? It's not my problem. I'm not in
Hmm.
charge of it. So yeah, one more episode before the finale. Yeah, follow us on Facebook at Kyle and Cody's Called Cinemcast. Like, comment, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review or like a 5-star on Spotify or iTunes, whatever you listen to this. See you guys next week. You guys can go home. Goodbye.